I want to turn our attention, though, to this story. So there's all this cancel culture has been happening, of course, over the past, few years now. But now, if you are in any way related to somebody in Russia and you happen to, maybe be an artist or you're a musician or now a tennis player, you could be canceled from participating in major Grand Slam events like Wimbledon.
Not could be, that actually has happened.
Yeah, so Wimbledon is now canceled, put a ban on Russian and Belarusian players today, announcing that this year, Wimbledon organizers on Wednesday said that Russian and Belarusian players will not be allowed to compete in this year's edition following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, Novak Djokovic, of course, jumped into this just this afternoon, and he called this whole thing absolutely crazy. That the idea that you would, he said, I know how much emotional trauma it leaves in Serbia. We all know what happened in 1999, the Balkans. We've had many recent wars in recent history. However, I cannot support the decision of Wimbledon. I think it's crazy when politics interferes with the sport. The result is not good. Of course, he's speaking from experience on what happened in Australia, where he was banned from playing. After the vaccine issue, of course, that he had to deal with at the Australian Open.
I do not think those things are related. You, as a sports organization, has the right to tell you, what shape your body should be in order to compete. They can say you can't take these substances, and they can say that you need these vaccines.
Yeah, but it was the politicians in
Whether
Australia.
you like it or not, yes, that's different.
That's not the sports organization. That wasn't the tennis association.
Well, the sports organization first debated it, then they cleared him, and then it was the government, right? Okay, so these are two different things. But now for a sports organization to say, we take players out of this because of where their mothers went into labor, right? This is now, you are no longer a player, you are a passport, but what's interesting is that only players are banned, showing that this is just a publicity move, because coaches, umpires, physiotherapists, presumably snack vendors who are Russian can still participate in the tournament. I just want to put this question out to you. If you think that this is an acceptable thing to do, punish people for what passport they hold, what their nationality is, what is the difference between this intention and Japanese internment camps?
In the United States during World War II.
Yes.
Just because you happen to be Japanese and you happen to be a Japanese American living in the United States at the time, that the Emperor Hirohito decides to launch an attack on the United States at Pearl Harbor. We're going to round everyone up and throw them in an internment camp.
Right. So this is not taking away their freedom. I understand that they are still free to live as Russian people, but it is taking away their livelihood. They cannot compete in a major tournament. They get paid for this. They get sponsored for this. So is the intention the same? Or are you saying, nope, sorry, we don't like what Russian's president's doing, and you hold that passport, You don't get to play in our playpen.
Well, here's what Paul Joseph Watson tweets about this latest nugget that just happened this afternoon. Ukrainian tennis star Elina Svitolina, I'm sorry if I'm not saying her name right, has demanded that Russian and Belarusian players be subjected to ideological purity tests before they are allowed to compete in international tournaments. So what is she saying here? She's saying basically that we need to know, not that just that you want peace, right? Like, okay, Clayton over here, you might be Russian, right? Clayton, how are you? Yeah, I want peace. I don't want anyone being killed. I want this aggression to stop. I want peace talks.
Do you know that Djokovic is...
Hold on. But no, I need you to clarify. Based on my purity test, I want to know, not just that you want peace, but do you also condemn Putin? Where do you come down on that piece? And only then, once you tell us your politics and where you come down on this issue, can you pick up a tennis racket and play tennis? Because this is what we are now facing.
Do you know that Djokovic is a sexist? Like, he decided to, I think it was him. I'd have to, I just called him a sexist and I don't remember exactly. But there are like plenty of men's players that have ideologies.
Okay.
Ideologies that you don't agree with, right?
Right.
I think it was him that decided to speak out about like not enough men's rights inside men's tennis.
Okay.
I'd have to look that up. But there was some major player recently who did something that I thought like, okay, that's a little bit sexist. So do we have to now ideologically align with everybody who competes in a sport?
Yes.
Should Ethiopia then maybe, or Yemen, not be allowed in World Cup because they compete? How far does this go? And can we, and then why just this conflict, right? If we really are going to say you have to be ideologically aligned to be in any kind of, like Tiger Woods, had a sex addiction. We let him play. Like this, it's just this, or how far is that going to go?
Yeah, no, maybe we should have like a test. So before you can compete, we have like a list of like political questions that we have to ask you.
You have to otherwise be a desirable person.
Right. Where do you come down on this? Like, where do you stand on the don't say gay bill in Florida? Like, where do you stand on Black Lives Matter?
Right.
Like, where do you stand on all sorts of issues? And only then, if you answer correctly,
do you get to play?
Do you get to play a sport with a ball? Like, do you realize how? I mean, this is the world we live in.
Just the fact that they use the word purity, like,
right,
is so frightening to me. Just the idea
Yes.
that purity exists, and so that means that there is only one answer, and it can't just be you give lip service, because that's not true purity. Like what? How do they prove that they feel this? Like,
they give it in Ukrainian.
Oh, no. She has a full typed out explanation of how you have to respond. This is on her Twitter feed. I mean, you can go and check it for yourself. I read through the whole thing today on her Twitter feed, what she wants this purity test. By the way, can we call out the total bullshit on Wimbledon for a second? Like, I love Wimbledon, right? I love watching Wimbledon whenever it unfolds. To me, it was always the mark of like, hey, summer has begun. You're out of school and you get to watch at the time on HBO, and I'd watch, on the grass courts in England, okay? In the UK, which, by the way, can we call out the total hypocrisy here on you're going to ban Russian players, and yet you are the ones funneling billions of dollars and heavy weapons to kill people. Like, so a tennis player with a ball at Wimbledon who's worked his or her whole life on a sport has nothing to do with killing people. You are totally okay, Boris Johnson and the English government, telling other people that they can't compete in your little tennis tournament, and yet you're okay to funnel in all sorts of heavy weapons. And there's lots of reports too about UK is really the one leading this challenge on this. Not leading the challenge, that the UK, Boris Johnson, I mean, he flew there and met with Zelensky.
Yes.
It's like, we're promising all of our support, pushing NATO really into this proxy war. In many ways, Boris Johnson is like the ringleader of this whole charade. And so we got to get the hypocrisy here. We can't go play tennis in your backyard on your grass courts in England because you're too busy sending heavy weapons into
the
Ukraine.
tournament said, well, we regret this decision, but here's a quote: "It's important to do all it can." The association is the it. It's important to do all we can to support Ukraine at this time. So how exactly does that help Ukraine by not allowing Russian players? Like, because we can't possibly have a winner wave the Russian flag? Because maybe it's really hard to make that argument. And it's sad to punish people for just where their mother went into labor.
Right.
I mean, is there going to be like a Wimbledon battalion that's going to go in and fight in Ukraine? What did they like by banning somebody from playing tennis? I'll give them this. If it works and they ban Belarusian and Russian players from Wimbledon, and Putin says, you know what, I was wrong, withdraws, and everything settles down, I will literally watch Wimbledon every time it's on. That will be the only sport I watch.
That's the final straw.
Right.
They will have me at that point.
I mean, we have the reports I just love the big bowl of steaming hypocritical bullshit from the British government right now. I mean, the reports that they even admit that they have been arming Ukrainian Nazis in the Azov battalion. So you want to do like a purity test? Like, is it okay? Have we not all lived through?
By that accord, you wouldn't even go to England, right? Mm-hmm. England started colonization. That was their thing. Right. So, come on.
Like I would so badly fail any purity test just based on the idea of, I was like, well, that sounds very like dichotomous. There's always gray areas, and then I would immediately fail every time.
Yes.
And that's the problem with it, is like when they're looking for black and white. I mean, I can't think of anything that is black and white, because there's not two options to everything, because there's always the third option of nothing. You know, so it's like, it just
Right.
There's a black and white cookie that exists.
Black and white cookie, like on Seinfeld, right? You know,
Yep. With shades of brown, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole it rests on a cookie of brown. Like the black icing, the white icing sits on a brown cookie.
See, I failed the
The
purity
yin
test.
and the yang.
We're solving world's problems.
I
right
don't
here.
know.
I mean, yeah. Look, I mean, why is Africa sliced up and given straight line countries? Because of Western governments. Because
Yes.
the British colonists decide we're going to plop a country right here. You have no meaningful waterway to provide. Who cares about famine, and who cares about water, drinkable water? We're going to make a country right here, and we're going to draw lines because we're the British government, and we're going to tell you. So we're going to judge you, and you can't come play tennis on our grass courts.
Not to mention, they classically put like traditional historic enemies in the same country, and they're like, okay, we're only putting one of you in charge. I mean, that's basically like what happened with the Rwanda, the genocide in Rwanda. Was the British were like, we're going to put these people in charge. The rest of you can't hold power. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just an aside.
It's like the Joker in Dark Knight, The Dark Knight. You know, he's like, we're holding tryouts, and he breaks the pool stick in half. He's like, but we only have one opening. You know, here you guys go, figure it out for yourselves.
That's very dark.
Anyway.
That was a very dark part.
Yeah,
of that
it was
movie.
a good one.